The cameras flashed. The crowd froze. And just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession.
Oh, absolute obsession.
Right. But what happens when the brightest stars in the room decide to just, walk away? Picture it.
Yeah.
On one hand, you have the bright, hypersaturated, incredibly wholesome living room set of a beloved 90s sitcom.
It's like this ultimate safe space. Every single problem you could possibly imagine is solved with a warm hug.
And some soft acoustic guitar music,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
All in under 2 minutes.
Exactly.
But then, on the other hand, you have the suffocating, relentless pressure of being an 8-year-old billionaire in the making. You're navigating a world of flashing bulbs, relentless paparazzi, and red carpets.
Which is just a world that demands absolutely everything from you.
It does. Until one day you make a quiet, deliberate escape from the spotlight, leaving millions of fans wondering, well, where did they go?
Yeah, they just vanished.
Welcome to Starscope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
It is a world of incredible, often jarring contrasts. And today, we're looking at one of the most fascinating examples of those contrasts in modern pop culture.
We really are.
We're examining what actually happens to the human brain when it grows up inside a television set.
Okay, let's unpack this because our mission today is pulling back the curtain on a massive pop culture mystery. The headline is essentially, Why Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen Left Full House and Never Looked Back.
Right.
To really get to the bottom of this, we're digging into some incredibly revealing recent interviews with their former co-stars Jodie Sweetin and John Stamos.
Which were very eye-opening.
Totally.
Yeah.
We're also looking through Jodie Sweetin's own memoirs and public statements. And let me tell you, it paints a picture you definitely did not see on Friday night television.
No. Absolutely not. Because for decades, the public has made this massive, sweeping assumption about this cast.
Oh, yeah. The rumor mill.
Exactly. The prevailing narrative, entirely fueled by endless tabloid speculation, has always been that there is some bitter, dramatic bad blood between the Olsen twins and the rest of the Full House cast.
Like they just hated everybody.
Right. People see two massive stars vanish from the Hollywood scene, and our cultural reflex is to assume there must have been a spectacular falling out. We crave the drama of a feud.
Right, but the truth is actually far more relatable. Jodie Sweetin, who played middle sister Stephanie Tanner, have been talking about this recently. And when you actually look at the math of their lives, it makes complete sense.
The math is everything here.
It really is. The twins' memories of the show essentially ended when they were just 8 years old.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture of child psychology and human memory, that age gap changes the entire foundation of their relationship to the show.
How so?
Well, during the sitcom's run, Sweetin described a very close, almost familial bond. They had sleepovers and family gatherings off-set. Sweetin viewed herself as a protective older sister.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, she was the one who took Mary-Kate and Ashley horseback riding for the very first time. She took them on trips to Disneyland. It was a real childhood for a moment. But we have to remember the timeline of cognitive development.
Yeah, let's really look at that timeline because it's wild. Sweetin worked on the show from age 5 to 13.
Right.
That is her entire formative memory. Everything she remembers about discovering who she was is tied to that set, those adult co-stars, and a very specific identity. But the twins,
We were babies.
they started as literal babies. They were 9 months old. By the time the show wrapped, they were 8. Think about your own life. What do you actually remember from when you were 4 or 5 years old?
Very little. Usually just, fragmented flashes of emotion or specific spaces.
Exactly. So they barely have any conscious memories of those early years on the show. And the memories they do have as 7 or 8-year-olds are completely different from a teenager's lived experience.
Absolutely.
They were just finishing the 2nd grade when the show ended.
And the aftermath of the show's abrupt cancellation highlights this divergence perfectly. When the network pulled the plug, Sweetin was 13. Losing that job devastated her sense of self.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
She had to figure out who she was outside of being Stephanie Tanner right at the terrifying onset of her teenage years.
Right.
The twins, however, were just kids moving on to the next phase. As they grew up, they eventually stepped away from acting entirely. They co-founded the luxury fashion brand The Row and built an absolute empire.
Incredible empire, honestly.
Yeah, deliberately shifting their focus to a highly guarded private life outside the entertainment industry.
I have to push back on the media's reaction to this because it drives me absolutely crazy.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
If you think about it, expecting these adult women to stay best friends with their former co-stars is like expecting you to still hang out every single weekend with the kid you sat next to in first grade.
Yes.
Why does society demand that child stars stay frozen in time together? We all drift apart from childhood friends as our lives take different trajectories. Why are they not allowed to just grow up and move on?
That is a brilliant point, and it's the core of the psychological burden we place on public figures. What's fascinating here is how Sweetin herself frames it.
What does she say?
She has explicitly said it was never about bad blood, they just ended up living very different lives. She has a tremendous amount of empathy for what the twins experienced as they became global
I think
commodities.
she gets it.
In fact, she noted recently, I can't imagine like all the bulls that they've had to deal with over the years. Sweetin understands why they chose privacy. They didn't reject the cast, they rejected the suffocating circus surrounding the industry.
So the twins quietly faded into the fashion world, building this incredibly successful silent luxury brand. But when Hollywood came knocking for a reboot, that peaceful silence shattered.
It really did.
And that's not even the wildest part. Wait until you hear who got angry.
Oh, yeah. The reboot era is where the tension, or at least the public perception of tension, really escalated.
Big time.
When Netflix announced the spin-off, Fuller House, back in 2016, the absence of the Olsen twins wasn't just a side note. It became a massive pop culture talking point.
It was inescapable. And the show didn't exactly help matters. The characters actually made meta jokes on screen about Michelle's absence.
Yes, looking directly at the camera.
Yeah, looking right at the camera with these knowing expressions. It felt a little pointed, maybe even a little petty.
It definitely crossed the line from a playful nod into something that felt reactive, and behind the scenes, emotions were running incredibly high.
They really were.
John Stamos, who played Uncle Jesse, revealed on a recent podcast that he's actually furious when they refused to join the spinoff. He openly admitted he was angry for a minute.
I really struggle to understand Stamos' reaction here. He is a grown man well into his 50s at the time of the reboot.
Right.
Why on earth is he taking the personal career choices of two women in their late 20s so personally?
Yeah.
It seems like an extreme overreaction to someone just saying, you know, no thanks, I don't act anymore.
Well, to understand that anger, you have to look at the unique psychology of a long-running television set. For many actors, especially in wholesome family sitcoms, the lines between their real lives and their fictional lives blur.
I guess that makes sense.
The cast becomes a surrogate family. Stamos' anger was fueled by the rumors surrounding their refusal. At the time, the narrative circulating in the tabloids was that Mary-Kate and Ashley actively hated their childhood.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that they despised being on the show. For Stamos, who clearly cherished those years and viewed himself as a paternal figure, hearing that the twins allegedly hated the very experience they all shared, it felt like a profound rejection of their shared history.
Ah, I see.
It felt like a family member disowning the family.
Okay, that makes more sense when you frame it as a perceived rejection of love rather than just a business decision. But Sweetin stepped in to diffuse that, didn't she?
She did.
She publicly defended them. She validated their choice to stay away from the entertainment industry, pointing out again that they just lived in different worlds now and that nobody should take it as a personal attack.
She was the voice of reason, yes. But the real turning point, the unexpected catalyst for healing this rift, didn't come from a press release or a phone call.
No, it came from somewhere much darker.
It came from a place of deep, sudden tragedy. In 2022, Bob Saget, who played the family patriarch Danny Tanner, suddenly passed away from blunt head trauma.
That was such a shock to the entire world. He was universally beloved. You can only imagine the shockwave that sent through that cast.
It was a devastating loss. But at his memorial, the cast reunited, and that included Mary-Kate and Ashley.
Wow.
Sweetin noted that it was a rare, profound moment where the group felt united again. Despite the years that had passed and the very different lives they now led, she said the dynamic briefly felt familiar. It was a tragic but beautiful reminder of their shared history.
And this transition brings us to one of the most surreal, highly specific details we uncovered in this deep dive.
It's so strange.
So Stamos revealed on his podcast that after the memorial, the twins wanted to make amends. They wanted to prove that the tabloid rumors were entirely false, that they actually loved their childhood, they loved the cast, and they desperately missed Bob.
Right.
So to offer an olive branch, they showed up at John Stamos' house carrying a frozen pork chop and sage.
What's fascinating here is the sheer eccentricity of that gesture. It just strips away all the Hollywood polish.
A frozen pork chop. I cannot get over this detail.
It's amazing.
Not a warm casserole, not a beautifully catered fruit basket, not a heartfelt Hallmark card, a rock-hard frozen cut of meat. It's so bizarre, but honestly, it's incredibly endearing. It completely breaks down that intimidating wall.
It really does. If we look closely at this, it strips away the intimidating billionaire fashion mogul facade the public projects onto them. It shows their raw humanity.
Yeah.
They were grieving young women. They wanted to offer comfort to a man who was like an uncle to them. And for whatever eccentric inside joke reason, a frozen pork chop and sage was the offering they chose.
That is so specific.
Stamos said it was a deeply touching moment, and it ultimately brought them all very close again. It proved that the foundational love was still intact, even if they hadn't spoken every day for 20 years.
It really is a beautiful, weirdly perfect Hollywood story. It proves that behind the sunglasses and the silent luxury brands, they're just normal people trying to navigate grief. If you're loving these Hollywood twists, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead. Because while the reunion at Bob Saget's funeral felt like a heartwarming sitcom ending, there is a totally different, incredibly heavy side to this narrative.
The very dark side.
Later in this deep dive, we'll talk about the shocking, dark reality hiding behind Jodie Sweetin's wholesome TV image that nobody saw coming.
It is a stark contrast. And examining Sweetin's path is absolutely essential to understanding the full picture.
Right.
Because while the Olsen twins reacted to the pressure of child stardom by retreating into complete privacy, Sweetin remained in the public eye. And the psychological toll of that exposure nearly destroyed her.
Okay, let's dive into this because reading through Sweetin's own words in her memoir blew my mind.
It's heavy.
It really is. While the Olsens were quietly building this pristine, untouchable luxury brand, Jodie Sweetin was living a harrowing double life. She was battling severe, life-threatening addiction, and her secret life actually collided directly with the Olsen twins' world in a way I don't think many people realize.
The background here is incredibly heavy. And to understand the why behind her addiction, we have to go back to that void we mentioned earlier. When the show was canceled, she lost her identity at 13.
Which is just the worst age for that to happen.
Oh, completely. Sweetin writes that her struggles began just a year later, at 14. She got drunk for the very first time at the wedding of her co-star, Candace Cameron Bure.
Wow, at her co-star's wedding.
Yeah. Sweetin later wrote that that first drink gave her the self-confidence she had been desperately searching for. It silenced the voice in her head that was terrified no one would love her if she wasn't playing a cute character on TV.
The speed at which it spiraled from there is terrifying. By 2004, the details she shares are just staggering. She weighed only 102 pounds.
That's heartbreaking.
She was heavily using meth. And here's that shocking crossover moment I mentioned earlier. Sweetin attended the red carpet premiere of the Olsen twins movie, New York Minute. She was there to support her former TV sisters, posing for photos, smiling for the cameras. But she was hiding a dark secret. She actually snorted meth, which she had meticulously hidden inside a hollowed-out lip gloss container right there in the bathroom at the premiere.
It is a devastating, almost unthinkable image. You have a wholesome, family-friendly movie premiere on the outside, and a young woman fighting for her life in the bathroom stall on the inside.
It's so grim.
She wrote that she was high as a kite at the event, and that people who knew her well could tell something was terribly wrong even if they couldn't pinpoint it. The level of deception required to maintain that facade must have been psychologically exhausting.
Oh, absolutely exhausting.
She was managing to hide her all-day, everyday drug use from her first husband, Sean Holgren, who was actually a police officer.
How do you even maintain a lie that massive? And the deception wasn't just at home. There's another instance she writes about that just stops you in your tracks.
The speech.
Yes, the speech. Put yourself in this room. She gave a speech at Marquette University, the topic of the speech. Her journey into sobriety. She stood at a podium, looked out at a crowd of young people, and got a standing ovation for turning her life around.
Unbelievable.
But she admits in her books that she had actually done cocaine right before walking out onto that stage. She was lying to a room full of people who were actively looking to her for inspiration.
That moment perfectly illustrates the cruel mechanics of addiction. It forces you to perform a version of yourself that doesn't exist, which is a particularly dangerous trap for someone who has spent their entire life acting.
That's such a good point.
The terrifying reality check Her true rock bottom finally arrived in 2008. Sweetin was driving under the influence with her baby daughter Zoe in the car. This resulted in an emergency child custody investigation.
That is the ultimate nightmare scenario.
It was, but losing her childhood was one thing. The threat of losing her actual child was the wake-up call she needed. It pushed her to finally endure the grueling process of getting and staying sober.
And I think it's so important to note that her journey didn't magically become easy just because she got sober.
Not at all.
Real life isn't a sitcom where the music swells and the credits roll. Public records show some incredibly intense later struggles. In 2017, she had to get a restraining order against her ex-fiancé, Justin Hodak.
It was a very scary situation.
According to the court documents, during a terrifying altercation, he pulled down a 7-foot bookcase to trap her in a room and threaten the use of a gun. She has been through the absolute gauntlet of trauma.
Which makes her current resilience all the more remarkable. Alongside her personal recovery, she has transformed her pain into very vocal advocacy. As a sexual assault survivor herself, she publicly and fiercely stood with Dr. Christine Blasey Ford during the highly publicized Senate hearings.
Yeah, she was very visible there.
She is also incredibly open about her ongoing battle with severe anxiety and depression. She discusses these mental health struggles bravely and explicitly, specifically to break the stigma for millions of others who suffer silently.
And that outspoken nature brings us to a really fascinating dynamic today. Think about her current relationship with Candace Cameron Bure, whose wedding was the site of her first drink.
Oh, that's an interesting contrast.
Sweetin openly admits they sit on very opposite sides of things politically and socially. Sweetin proudly calls herself a loud, outspoken bitch regarding her activism and standing up for marginalized groups, while noting that Candace, does her thing.
Right.
There's no sugarcoating it. They aren't pretending to be a happy family for the cameras anymore. So what does this all mean for us as an audience?
Well, it highlights how radically different the paths of child stars can be, even those who shared the exact same fictional living room and the exact same bizarre upbringing.
It's like looking at a split screen of survival. On one side, the Olsens shield themselves with an impenetrable wall of privacy and high fashion.
Right, total isolation.
They recognize the toxicity of the industry and vanish from the screen to protect their peace. On the other side, Sweetin stays in the spotlight, goes through the absolute gauntlet of public struggles, addiction, trauma, deeply public mistakes, but comes out the other side as this fiercely outspoken survivor who absolutely refuses to be quiet.
It's two completely different coping mechanisms for the exact same childhood trauma.
Exactly.
If we trace both of those paths back to their origin, it all stems from the immense psychological toll of child acting. When your entire worth, your income, and your identity are tied to a character before your brain has even fully developed, the pressure is unimaginable.
Unimaginable is right.
Sweetin had to hit rock bottom to finally discover who Jodie actually is outside of Stephanie Tanner. The Olsen twins had to walk away from billions of dollars in potential acting revenue just to find out who Mary-Kate and Ashley were.
It's a heavy, incredible journey to reflect on. Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because diving into stories like this really changes how you watch these classic shows.
It completely changes the context.
You really can never look at those smiling kids on the screen the same way again once you know what it cost them.
You really can't. And it leaves us with a critical question to consider as consumers of pop culture. We constantly freeze child stars in the amber of our own nostalgia.
Yeah, we do.
We want them to remain our innocent little TV sisters forever, living perfectly happy, neatly resolved lives. But when the cameras stop rolling, they are forced to navigate decades of real, messy, painful life, just like the rest of us.
Just like everybody else.
This raises an important question for you, the listener. Are our expectations of childhood icons actually unfair demands that they never grow up? Do we love them for who they are? Or do we only love the memory of who they used to be?
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.